Welcome everybody watching us on Facebook and YouTube. Welcome to the African History Network show. It is Sunday, June 12th, 2022, and we are live. Calling numbers 313-778-7600, 313-778-7600. Welcome to the African History Network show right here on 910 AM Superstation, the Future Radio. I'm your host, Brother Michael Imhotep. As I was saying, we have a jam-packed show today. We're going to recap the January 6th insurrection, the January 6th committee hearings, congressional hearings that took place on Thursday. This was the first of many hearings. This was in prime time. It was seen by approximately 20 million people tuned into it as well. The ratings of MSNBC beat the ratings of Fox News also. We discussed this on Roland Martin Unfiltered when I was on Friday, so I'm going to share a couple of segments with you from Roland Martin Unfiltered so you can hear what happened. Then also the officer who shot Patrick Lyoya, he's been brought up on second-degree murder charges in Grand Rapids, Michigan. So we'll give you some information on that also. We know that, remember last Sunday I talked about the documentary Heavy is the Crown from director Amadeus Christ, dealing with the African origins of the world's religions. And it features Professor James Small, Professor Kabahaya Kamene, who are two of my teachers, and Tony Browder. Amadeus Christ is going to be on the show today, and we'll talk about the screening taking place Wednesday, June 15th at Nandi's Knowledge Café. Okay, so we'll give you some information on that. Nandi's Knowledge Café in Highland Park, Michigan. I'll be there also. Last Sunday, we talked about the California's Reparations Task Force, and we talked about the 500-page report that they released dealing with the how slavery and racism have negatively impacted African Americans for the past 150 years. Okay, it's an extensive report. We talked about it for a good part of last Sunday's show. Okay, so if you missed that show, you can go back and watch it. So California calls for comprehensive reparations for Black Americans. California's unprecedented reparations report details 150 years of anti-Black harm. So you remember we talked about that on last Sunday's show. Okay, well, I was doing some more research, and there was a good article from RollingStone.com. Let's see. Now, this one here is from the Washington Post. This is one of the articles we talked about last Sunday. Okay, our Sunday, June 5th show. California calls for comprehensive reparations for Black Americans. The interim report of the California Reparations Task Force comes as task members remain split on what reparations should look like. All right, this article's from June 1st, 2022, and the California's first in the nation task force on reparations for Black Americans said it has documented 170 years of systemic discrimination by the state of California and demanded comprehensive reparations for those harmed by that history of government sanctioned oppression. Comprehensive reparations for those harmed by that history of government sanctioned oppression. In a 500-page report released on Wednesday, June 1st, a legislatively mandated task force argues that the present-day wealth gap between white Americans in California and the rest of the country is the direct result of slavery, Jim Crow laws, redlining, and other government policies that locked African Americans into failing schools and over communities. Okay, so you remember we talked about this on our last Sunday, our Sunday, June 5th show. Okay, so there was a article I came across that dealt with a chapter of this report, and it's from Rolling Stone magazine. I posted it on our Facebook fan page, The African History Network. California Reparations Task Force takes on the historic theft of Black art and culture, takes on the historic theft of Black art and culture. Now, we know that June is Black Music Month, okay? And this is something really good to talk about. Talk about anytime, but especially during the month of June, because June is Black Music Month. So we're going to talk about this on today's show also. California's Reparations Task Force takes on the historic theft. Hopefully I can close these ads out. Takes on historic theft of Black art and culture. Nearly 600-page interim reports is the most extensive government issued report on the African American community since 1968, according to the task force chair, who's Camila Moore, okay, African American female, brilliant sister. The California Reparations Task Force has issued its first interim report, a nearly 600-page document that spends a full chapter focusing on the long-standing inequities surrounding the history of arts and entertainment in the United States. They have a full chapter in their report. They have a full chapter on the theft of African American art and culture, okay? The 600-page document spends a full chapter focusing on the long-standing inequities surrounding the history of arts and entertainment in the United States. Camila Moore, who's the chairwoman of the committee and an attorney, she's been on Roland Martin Unfiltered and other shows. She said, quote, "Throughout American history, the federal government historically deprived African American artists and innovators of intellectual property rights, copyright protections, and patent protections, resulting in intellectual and cultural theft and exploitation, states the report, which, according to task force chair Camila Moore, is the most extensive government-issued report on the African American community since the mission in 1968. So we'll talk some about this on today's show. They show a cultural appropriator here, Elvis Presley, the original song creators whose work Elvis Presley appropriated. The California Reparations Task Force report states they were not even paid for the use of their music. Okay, so we'll continue on the other side of the break. Listen to the African History Network show right here on 910 AM Superstation and Future Radio. Also visit our new website, TheAHNShow.com. TheAHNShow.com. It's a new website. Been spending the past 3 days building, and it's user friendly. You can order right from your smartphone, TheAHNShow.com. Listen to the African History Network show right here on 910 AM Superstation and Future Radio. I'm Michael M. Hotep. We'll be back in a few minutes. Stand by. Stand by. Let me call back into the radio station. How's everybody doing? Share this broadcast on social media platforms. Stand by. Bathroom break in 4 minutes. Yeah, okay. Can you hear me? Okay. All right. I'm gonna go to, let me see. So cue up one from NBC Nightly News, because I'm gonna go clip one when I come back. One guest. He's gonna call in. Amadeus Christ. He's gonna call in at 9:30 or 9:25 p.m. He'll call in. Yep. All right. Thanks. Yep. Stand by. Back from break in 4 minutes. Back from break in 2 minutes. Stand by. Okay, new website, TheAHNShow.com. After breaking 1 minute. Stand by. After breaking 1 minute.
A number of different topics here on the After History Network Show. We do recurring events of history and much, much more. We're going to give you an update on what's going on. This is about self-preservation. We have to extinguish the fire of white supremacy. See, elections have consequences. Catch it all right here on 910 AM Superstation.
Welcome back to the After History Network Show right here on 910 AM Superstation, the Future of Radio. I'm your host, Brother Michael Imhotep. It is Sunday, June 12th, 2022, and we are live. Calling numbers 313-778-7600, 313-778-7600 is the call-in number if you have a quick question or comment. All right, now on the African History Network Show, we focus on educating, empowering, and inspiring people of African descent throughout the diaspora and around the world, because right now it's correct wrong behavior. What you do for yourself, what you do to yourself, and what you allow other people to do to you and get away with is based upon what you think about yourself. What you think about yourself is based upon what you have been taught about yourself. What you've been taught about yourself is based upon everything you've read, heard, and seen about yourself. So when you control the radius of a man or woman's thoughts, you can control the circumference of his or her actions, because the mind can't do or teach what it doesn't know. So we deal with a number of different topics here on the African History Network Show. We deal with current events in history, politics, education, economic empowerment, entrepreneurship, relationships, love, sex, health issues, and much, much more. Sign up for our email newsletter. Text the word Kemet, K-E-M-E-T, to 22828. To sign up for our email newsletter, text the word Kemet, K-E-M-E-T, to 22828 to sign up for our email newsletter. Also visit our new website, TheAHNShow.com, TheAHNShow.com. Okay. And we have information there. We'll give you some more information about the new website also. All right. Thursday, June 9th, the January 6th committee met. They had the first primetime hearing. We're going to go to this clip here in just a second. There's a good article from the Washington Post, 6 takeaways from the January 6th committee's first primetime hearing. 6 takeaways from the January 6th committee's first primetime hearing. And they laid out, Representative Liz Cheney outlined a 7-point plan by Trump to overthrow the government and to stay in office. Each one of the hearings is going to focus in on one of those 7 points. The committee holds Trump responsible for the attack. Here's 6 takeaways. The committee holds Trump for the attack. Also, number 2, how the committee, it breaks down how the committee plans to tell the story. They had a documentarian, Nick Quested, who was embedded with the Proud Boys, who did a documentary. He was interviewing the Proud Boys and doing a documentary of January 6th, but he put together a film to document exactly what happened. They showed this during the January 6th hearing. Number 3, a sharp attack on Trump's Republican defenders, because people around Trump knew that he was lying also. Okay, they knew the election was not stolen. Top Republican lawmakers, even Mike Pence, whose life was threatened by the attackers, have spent the year and a half since the attack downplaying what happened. It's now a badge of honor in some circles to have been in D.C. protesting the election results or to be labeled an insurrectionist. But they revealed how people in the Trump administration who testified before the January 6th committee, they knew that the big lie was a lie. Also, they knew that Trump lost and the election was not stolen. Committee Chairman Benny G. Thompson, Democrat from Mississippi, he's from Bolton, Mississippi. He said it's a city of about 521 people. He compared those who have justified what happened to the January 6th insurrection. He compared those who justify the January 6th insurrection to those who defended slavery and the Civil War. He said, quote, "I'm from a part of the country where people justified the actions of slavery, the Ku Klux Klan, and lynching." Representative Thompson said in his opening remarks, his Southern drawl evident. He said, "I'm reminded of that dark history as I hear voices today try to justify the actions of the insurrectionists. They were domestic terrorists during the Civil War, and they are domestic terrorists today." And then you have number 4. This is extremely important because this goes back to the Ku Klux Klan and the white shirts and the White League and the red shirts and the Knights of the White Camellia. These domestic terrorist organizations during Reconstruction, okay, who inflicted political violence on African Americans and white Republicans, things like this, that brought an end to Reconstruction. How Trump influenced the Oath Keepers and the Proud Boys. How Trump influenced the Oath Keepers and the Proud Boys. If the attack was not spontaneous, as the committee says it was not, if the attack wasn't spontaneous, as the committee says it was not, what led to it? The committee alleges the right-wing extremist groups were motivated by Trump himself. The committee spent a large chunk of Thursday's hearing introducing Americans to 2 of these groups, the Proud Boys and the Oath Keepers, and making the case for how Trump's statements and tweets influenced their actions and eventually their violence. As I talked about in the broadcast earlier today, and as we talked about in my online class today, from the Civil War to the Civil Rights Movement and Black Power, 1865 to 1968, we see a direct correlation between the violence from the January 6th insurrection and the political violence by white supremacists during Reconstruction, 1865 to 1877. The committee presented evidence that membership of the Proud Boys tripled after Donald Trump praised the group in a presidential debate with Joe Biden toward the end of the election campaign. When Donald Trump said, "Stand back and stand by" to the Proud Boys, okay? The hearing also featured footage of rioters reading aloud over a bullhorn a tweet that Donald Trump sent attacking Vice President Mike Pence for his lack of courage. And when Trump tweeted ahead of January 6th, quote, "Be there, will be wild," end quote, the committee said that these extremist groups took it as a call to arms. Filmmaker Nick Quested, who was embedded with the Proud Boy, testified that some group members went to the U.S. Capitol early that morning. Others left to stop the Steele rally, which was at the White House on the Ellipse, to march to the U.S. Capitol before Trump's speech even began. They did not seem to be very interested in hearing Trump speak, which documentarian Nick Quested said confused him at the time, but he described the group's atmosphere as, quote unquote, much darker than usual. Okay, then number 5, okay, they talk about the production value of night one. Throughout June, June of 2022, the committee has to weave together thousands of hours of testimony, tens of thousands of documents. So they reviewed 140,000 documents. They've reviewed 140,000 documents, and they've interviewed over 1,000 people, okay, for the hearing. I mean, for the January 6th committee. This is the work that they've been doing for the past 11 months. Interviewed over 1,000 people and reviewed over 140,000 documents. And then lastly, number 6, the committee says more is to come. They spent 11 months investigating, but they're not done. Representative Liz Cheney, who's the co-chair, she's a Republican, the co-chair from Oklahoma, she reminded the American public our investigation is still ongoing. So what we make public here will not be the complete set of information we will ultimately disclose. And she added that the Justice Department's criminal investigations are ongoing, specifically mentioning that investigators are de-encrypting messages from those involved in the attack or in election conspiracy. All right, I want to go quickly here to this clip here from NBC Nightly News, what happened on Thursday, June 9th.
Thank you. Tonight's other top story, new reaction tonight from former President Trump and President Biden after last night's primetime hearing by the January 6th committee, which accused Mr. Trump of leading an attempted coup. Garrett Haake is at the Capitol.
In a made-for-television primetime production, the January 6th committee laid out their case that the deadly attack on the U.S. Capitol was no spontaneous riot, but the culmination of a months-long attempted coup with one man to blame.
Donald Trump was at the center of this conspiracy. And ultimately, Donald Trump, the President of the United States, spurred a mob of domestic enemies of the Constitution to march down the Capitol and subvert American democracy.
And tonight, former President Trump responded after the committee played new video from depositions by his attorney general and other advisors, saying they told him he had lost.
I made it clear I did not agree with the idea of saying the election was stolen and putting out this stuff, which I told the president was bull. You can't live in a world where the incumbent administration stays in power based on its view, unsupported by specific evidence, that there was fraud in the election.
Barr's argument swaying Ivanka Trump.
It affected my perspective. I respect Attorney General Barr. So I accepted what he was saying.
But not the former president, who on social media today attacked his former attorney general as a coward and said his daughter had, quote, long since checked out on following the election results. President Biden speaking out, also presenting violent new video of the attack, never before seen, moving lawmakers and Capitol police officers present to tears. Officer Carolyn Edwards, who suffered a traumatic brain, the sheer scope of the day's violence.
All right, we're coming up on the break here. When we come back from the break, we'll be joined by Director Amadeus Christ, director of the documentary Heavy is the Crown, which is in the Out of Darkness series. It deals with the African origins of the major world religions. And there's a screening coming up of the documentary Wednesday, June 15, 7 p.m. at Nandi's Knowledge Café in Highland Park, Michigan. We'll give you more information about that. You listen to the African History Network show. I'm Michael M. Hotep. We'll be back in a few minutes. Stand by, back from break in 4 minutes. We're live every Sunday night, 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for 6 years. Stand by. All right, visit our new website, TheAfricanHistoryNetwork.com, TheAfricanHistoryNetwork.com. It's a new, easy to use website. You can order right from your smartphone. It's much easier to use. I'm still updating some things, but we have, what the hell? Stand by. Back from break in 3 minutes. Back from break in 2 minutes. Bathroom break in 1 minute. Okay, who still needs to register for the online classes I teach on Saturdays and Sundays? We had a great class today. As soon as you register, you can watch it from the Civil War to the Civil Rights Movement and Black Power, 1865 to 1968. It's on sale $60, regularly $130. I'm going to post the information here so you can register. Welcome back to the African History Network show right here on 910 AM, the Superstation, the Future Radio. I'm your host, Brother Michael M. Hotep. It is Sunday, June 12th, 2022, and we are live. All right, on the line, we're joined by Director Amadeus Christ. We've had him on the show before. He's the director of the documentary Out of Darkness, and his new documentary, Heavy is the Crown, is in that series, and it deals with the African origins of the major world religions. So we want to welcome back to the African History Network show, Director Amadeus Christ. Hotep, brother, how you doing tonight?
Hotep, brother, Hotep, how you doing, brother?
Oh, I'm all right, man. Just busy, man. Doing a whole lot, man, and teaching online history classes. So yeah, it's hectic, brother, but it's good to hear you again. We talked about 3 or 4 weeks ago, but it's good to have you on the show again. So there's a screening coming up Wednesday, June 15th, 7 p.m. at Nandi's Knowledge Café. But give people a synopsis of the new documentary, Heavy is the Crown.
Ooh, okay, a synopsis. So in this part of the film, it's Heavy is the Crown is a project. It's not just one film. Okay. So it's a living, breathing, organic, ongoing project that's going to have, films, and a lot of other ancillary products, and surprises. I just can't give away everything, but in this film, what we do is we deal with the African origins of what we're calling today religion, right? Western religion. Right. So we focus on the concept of mythology, and we delve into the original mythologies, the original, as Kaba would frame it, the original mythological stories. Right. That kind of birth what we would call organized religion today, right? Mm-hmm. And a lot of people have a hard time with the concept of myth and religion, because we are programmed to believe whatever spiritual path or whatever religion that we belong to, or whatever religious club we choose to associate with. We just tend to kind of take everything literally and believe everything as actual fact. Right. When, for instance, the Bible itself is made of various allegories, and Jesus Christ himself taught in parables, which are stories that are used to illustrate truths. Yeah, 80% of the Bible is written in allegory, hyperbole, metaphors, and things like that. Yeah, in parables. Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead. Right. So what we do is we show you the original African, the first recorded mythology that birthed what we again are deeming, like the modern drama, right? Right. Religious, just the story itself, the concept, even the comic book or the film strip or a film. These are the first stories that were ever told, and for the most part, they kind of originate with agriculture and agricultural science. Right. And let me do this quickly. Having to do with nature and planting and harvesting, and life, death, resurrection, rebirth. Right. Along those lines. So let me do this, Amadeus, right quick, and I want you to continue. I want to give my quick disclaimer. Now, we may say some things that are outside the circumference of your own awareness. Just because you disagree with them or don't like them or never heard them before does not mean that they are not true. It just means you have to do some research to understand what we're talking about. Okay, so just because you know everything that you know about what you know does not mean you know everything there is to know about what you know. There's still things that exist outside the circumference of your own awareness. Okay, so you're referring to the Assyrian drama, correct? Absolutely.
Okay, so go ahead and talk about that briefly, and then we want to talk about the screening taking place on Wednesday, June 15th at Nandi's Knowledge Cafe.
Sure. So the Arthurian drama is essentially the story of a family. It's the story of the father, whose name is Asar.
Right.
People know him as Osiris, the Greek name Osiris. His wife, Isis. That's her Greek name. Her African name is Offset.
Correct.
And what happens is Osiris's brother, whose name is Set, which we will later derive the name Satan or Shaitan.
Right.
The evil brother essentially is jealous of Asar, and he basically murders him. He cuts his body into 14 pieces and scatters them throughout the land.
Right.
And in the story, Offset, his wife, when she discovers this, she gathers his body. She gathers pretty much all of the pieces except one, which is his phallus symbol, his phallus. And she essentially reconstructs his body. She wraps the body in bandages, anoints it with oil. And in that process, she becomes impregnated by the spirit of Asar, the spirit of her dead husband. And in doing so, she gives birth to a child. And the child, the son, his name is Heru, or what we know in the Greek as Horus.
Right.
And essentially, the son, she raises this in captivity, and the son grows up, and he does battle with his evil uncle Set, who murdered his father, and he avenges the death of his father.
Exactly.
And in doing so, in defeating his evil uncle, he transforms into a falcon, and Heru becomes the king or the ruler of the physical world. And his father is resurrected, and he becomes the Lord of Judgment, or the Lord of the underworld.
Right, the judgment scene.
So it's the
judgment scene.
Right, in the judgment scene. Right, correct.
Right, exactly.
So it's just the story of life, death, resurrection. It's the first, what we would call, story of the Immaculate Conception. The story of a virgin birth. And this goes back to recorded about 2400. It's much older story than this, but the earliest records we have are in the Pyramid text.
Right.
And they're already talking about it in 2400 BC. So that's about 2400 years before Christ.
Right. Right. Exactly. And
so,
Christ
so
and Christ means anointed. Christ is a title, not a person. And Christ refers to anointed. And we know that when you read like Christianity Before Christ by Dr. John G. Jackson, or The World's Crucified Saviors by Kersey Graves, we know there have been other people who've had the title of Christ as well.
Exactly.
So let me just say this, and I want you to give it.
So in the film, we essentially we reenact that drama, right, with actors, and we have pretty good. They did a pretty good job. We filmed it at a few locations, top secret locations, but we really went all out. It's a top production. We just released a trailer yesterday, a new trailer yesterday. So there's 2 trailers up.
Okay.
OutofDarknessFilm.com. You guys can go check out the trailers.
Okay.
Lots of great feedback so far. Lots of great feedback.
Yeah, well,
people are really loving it.
Well, I've seen some of it, and it's fantastic. And when I was at the Hoppy conference here in Detroit in April 30th and May 1st with Professor James Small, he raves about it as well. I talked to Professor Small about it. We're coming up here on a break in 4 minutes. Give people the details of the screening that's taking place on Wednesday, June 15th at Nandi's Knowledge Cafe.
Yeah, we did a screening of Out of Darkness at Nandi's to kind of kick off the franchise. So it's only right that we return to Nandi's Knowledge Cafe. Nandi's an excellent host. We're going to have a wonderful time. I think you have the flyer posted on your website.
I'm looking for the flyer. Yeah, what's what Nandi sent? Somebody sent it to me. I think it was Nandi. I've got to go through. Hold on, let me see. I was looking for it. I think Nandi sent it to me. The new one. Let's see here. Okay, yeah. Out of Darkness, and we'll get this up on our new website, TheAfricanHistoryNetwork.com, because I built a new website the past couple of days, TheAfricanHistoryNetwork.com. June 15th, so it's a $15 donation. It includes popcorn and lemonade. Nandi's Knowledge Cafe is located at 71 Oakman, Oakman Avenue in Highland Park, Michigan. 71 Oakman Avenue in Highland Park, Michigan. For more information, call 313-865-1288, 313-865-1288 for more information as well. So let people know what's going to take place. I'll be there also. Let people know what's going to take place.
Okay. Yeah, we're going to show, a decent part of the film and have a nice Q&A. You guys will get to talk to me. I fly in the morning. I haven't been to Detroit. That's my second home. I haven't been to my second home in a while, so I get to fly in the morning and politic and connect with the people. And
right,
we'll have a nice family discussion.
Exactly.
Without the emotion, right?
Right. So we have people of different levels of understanding of history in the African American community, people, different religions. Can people with they don't need a PhD in Africana studies to be able to come to this, do they? I mean, people on all different levels can come, right?
Brother Imhotep, let me tell you something. This film is really made for children.
Okay.
It's really made for children. Not to say that in a condescending way, but the information is really heavy and complex, but
okay,
it's presented in a way that's easily digestible, easily understandable. Everything is referenced. Of course, you're going to have to, everybody, they're going to have to purchase the film.
Right. Okay, do this. Stand by. We're coming up on a break. Amadeus, we're coming up on a break. We're going to hold you over the break for a few minutes and continue this discussion. Stand by. You listen to the African History Network show right here on 910 AM Superstation, the Future Radio. I'm speaking with director Amadeus Christ, director of the new documentary, Heavy as the Crown. We'll be back in a few minutes. Back from break in 4 minutes. Stand by. Back from break in 4 minutes. Stand by. Okay, who still needs to register for the online history classes I teach on Saturdays and Sundays? On Sundays, it's from the Civil War to the Civil Rights Movement and Black Power, 1865 to 1968. On Saturdays, it's from the Civil War to the Civil Rights Movement and Black. On Saturdays, it's Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Ma'afa. Understanding the transatlantic slave trade, what they didn't teach you in school. So if you missed today's class, you can, as soon as you register, you can watch it, and you can watch the previous classes because they're archived. All right. Thanks for the donation, Robert. We definitely need that. You all can support the African History Network, also $ TheAHNShow through Cash App, through PayPal, paypal.me/TheAHNShow. Back from break in 2 minutes. This helps us keep doing the research, stay on the air, keep broadcasting, pay some of the bills. So we're only doing the show on Sundays. I was doing it Monday through Friday. I can't keep doing it Monday through Friday. It's taking up way too much time. It keeps me up late at night, and 9-10 a.m. that does not pay me to do radio. So I couldn't keep dedicating that type of time to it. So we're just going back to just doing once a week Sundays. Okay, what did he send me? He just sent me something. Just the new flyer? Oh, nobody told me there was a new flyer. Shit. Okay. Okay, back from break in 1 minute. Welcome back to the African History Network show right here on 910 AM Superstation, the Future Radio. I'm your host, Brother Michael Imhotep. It is Sunday, June 12th, 2022. And we are live. Before we go back to Amadeus Christ, I want to let you know that we have a new website, which is TheAHNShowNetwork.com, TheAHNShowNetwork.com. So visit our new website. The old one is still up, but I'm transferring everything over to the new one. It's easier to navigate. It shows up better on your smartphone and on tablets. Some of my lectures are there right now as well that you can order. It's an easy checkout process also. And you can register for the online history classes that I teach on Saturdays and Sundays. On Saturdays, it is Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Ma'afa, understanding the transatlantic slave trade, what they didn't teach you in school. So we deal with thousands of years of history and what leads up to the transatlantic slave trade taking place. Classes on sale $60, regularly $130. And we do all this. We do the sessions live. All the sessions are archived and recorded. You can go anytime. On Sundays, I teach from the Civil War to the Civil Rights Movement and Black Power, 1865 to 1968. We had a great class today. And one of the things we talked about is the connection between the January 6th, 2021 insurrection attacking the U.S. Capitol building, those domestic terrorists that Donald Trump sent to attack the U.S. Capitol building. We looked at the correlation between that and the political violence that took place during the Reconstruction Era, which targeted African Americans, African American elected officials, and white Republicans who were elected officials who were allies of African Americans. Okay, so we talked about that also. All right, I want to go back to Amadeus Christ here. So Amadeus, right before the break, you were talking about the screening that's taking place of your new film, Heavy is the Crown, at Nandi's Knowledge Cafe. And Toby sent me the new updated flyer, which looks really good. So we're going to bring that up on the screen also. Okay, so go ahead and give us some more information.
Yeah, like I said, we're just going to have a nice family discussion and show a good portion of the film, and you guys will get a chance to have a nice Q&A with the director and myself, who will be in the building.
Okay.
And we'll take it from there. You know, I kind of like these things to be really organic, right? And just kind of talk to the people and answer their questions. So
exactly.
I don't really have a script. You know, I feel at home at Nandi.
Right.
And, you know, I get a chance to see my Detroit family. And like I said, we'll just have a nice family discussion. Exactly.
Now, I'm going to bring the new flyer up here on the screen as well. New flyer looks really good for this, for the screening that's taking place at 71 Oakman Avenue in Highland Park, Michigan. So what has been some of the response that you have received so far from the film?
The response has been great. We've held the #1 and #2 slot on iTunes movie charts for the African genre.
Okay. Excellent. Congratulations.
Consecutively for at least the last 2 or 3 weeks. So the reviews have been great. You know, the people have responded well. You know, it's literally been exhausting, you know, because I take the time back to respond to people individually, right?
Okay.
I don't want to be the guy that's just super unreachable. So I really take the time to respond to each and every person. I request reviews, you know, from people. So, honestly, you know, I kind of thought there would be more of a maybe negative reviews than what we have, you know, but all in all, the film was crafted in a way where it didn't attack religion at all. It Yeah,
Right.
I don't think anybody would be offended by the film. I think it just Africanizes a lot of what we already believe.
Right.
So it's not like I'm not asking you to throw away anything. I'm just asking you to kind of expand on it. Right.
Right.
It's time to just graduate a little bit to the next level and just kind of expand our knowledge. So that's really what it's about.
Yeah,
right?
I understand where all of this came
So,
from.
The people, the people appreciate it.
Okay, excellent. So once again, the screening is taking place at Nandi's Knowledge Cafe, 71 Oakland Avenue, Highland Park, Michigan, Wednesday, June 15th. It's a $15 donation, and it includes popcorn and lemonade, and there'll also be a discussion. I'll be there as well. So look out for me also. All right. Well, look, brother, how can people get in contact with you if they want to schedule a screening in their city or something like that? How can people get in contact with you to set something up like that? Or are you looking to do screenings in other cities?
Absolutely. There's a couple screenings in motion. Most people just either contact me through Instagram, which is at Amadeus Christ, or you can send me a message on the Facebook, which is facebook.com /OutOfDarknessFilm.
Okay.
Our YouTube channel as well, youtube.com Building 7. The V is actually a 7, so it's Building SE7EN.
Okay.
I'm an easy Google search away. So also my IMDb has my email information for anybody that's in the industry. They can access me that way.
Okay.
I'm not hard to find.
Exactly. Let people know who's in the film. We know Professor James Small and Professor Kabahaya Kamene, who are two of my teachers. We had them here on the show in April of 2022. Also, Tony Browder is in there as well.
Tony Browder in there.
And we've had
his
Tony on the show.
Atlantis Browder, and I want to give a special shout out to Tony because he brought me to Kemet twice and Sudan. So Tony is a real big part of this project. Because there's a lot of footage from the film. Pretty much everything that you see is all original footage from Kemet. So I want people to understand that, this is not just pictures and images tied together. This is actual footage, and I'm taking you inside these temples, and, this is the real deal. So Tony's in there. His daughter, Atlantis Browder's in there. She did an excellent job.
Right.
We got David Banner. David Banner is in there. And Fubishi Jehutimas is in there.
We had Fubishi on the show in April.
Akua, Dr. Wade Nobles, and also we have Sabir Bey and Taj Tariq Bey. So again, we have the all-star lineup. There's no shortage of information.
Exactly.
You could watch this movie 10 times and still not get everything. So it's worth it. It's worth your time and your money.
Exactly.
And they could pick it up. It's streaming on every major platform: Apple TV, iTunes, Google Play, Amazon Prime, Vudu, Fandango. We just signed a deal with Ubiquity, and we have a lot of other distributors knocking at the door ready to take it international. We're already international.
And we're also a distributor of it as well. The African History Network. We're also a distributor of the film also. So we have it at AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, TheAHNShow.com, our new website. We have the film there. You can order it on DVD also. Okay, brother. Well, look, man, I'll see you Wednesday. It's good talking to you. And we're going to have a good time at Nandi's Knowledge Cafe. All right?
All right. Thank you for having me. I appreciate you.
All right. Peace. Okay, everybody, and be sure to visit our new website, TheAfricanHistoryNetwork.com, TheAfricanHistoryNetwork.com, and we have the documentary Out of Darkness there, Heavy as the Crown, if you want to order it there as well, if you can't make it to the screening. We have it at our website, TheAfricanHistoryNetwork.com. Listen to the African History Network show. We'll be back in a few minutes. Stand by. Stand by. Back from break in 4 minutes. Back from break in 4 minutes. When we come back, we'll talk some more about the January 6th insurrection. Okay, we got Robert, Sharon. How's everybody doing? Okay, who still needs to register for the online history classes I teach on Saturdays and Sundays? Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Ma'afa, understanding the transatlantic slave trade, what they didn't teach you in school. Some of the slides I was showing are from the class. When Amadeus was talking, some of the slides I was showing are from the online class that I teach. Egypt of the West. This is what the founding fathers looked at this land as that became the United States of America. We know the Washington Monument is a Tekken, which is an ancient symbol of resurrection coming from the story of Asar, Aset, and Heru. And you have about you have Tekkenu all across that have been taken from Egypt all across the world. You have one in New York City, one in London, England, one in Paris, France. They're known as Cleopatra's Needle. This is Asar in the middle, Heru with the falcon's head, and Aset with the horns and the sun disk. Back from break in 3 minutes. Stand by. Okay, I'm going to post the information here. You can register for the online class. Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Ma'afa, understanding the transatlantic slave trade, what they didn't teach you in school. Classes on sale $60, regularly $130. You don't have to be present in class. You can watch it anytime.
910 AM Superstation, a division of Adele Media. We got the topics.
So we do the sessions live. All the sessions are archived and recorded. You can go back and watch it anytime.
Here on the After History Network Show, we do current events and history and much, much more. We're going to give you an update on what's going on. This is about self-preservation. We have to extinguish the fire of white supremacy. See, elections have consequences.
Catch it all right here on 910 AM Superstation. The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and or the persons appearing on the program and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of 910 AM Superstation or Adele Media.
Welcome back to the After History Network Show right here on 910 AM Superstation, the Future Radio. Okay, the calling number is 313-778-7600. 313-778-7600 is the call-in number if you have a question or comment. I'll be on the Tammy Mack Late Show on Wednesday, June 15th. We're taping that early in the day, about 2 p.m. Then I have to go over to Nandi's Knowledge Cafe. But we're going to talk about Juneteenth and the history of Juneteenth, and should Juneteenth be a federal holiday, etc., things like that. There's a lecture that I did June 16th, 2021, dealing with the real history of Juneteenth and the fact that we have to correct the history and protect the history. It's available right now at our new website, TheAHNShow.com, TheAHNShow.com. Juneteenth history, Emancipation Day, not Independence Day. We never got our 40 acres and the mule. Dr. King's Poor People's Campaign would cut our check. Okay, it's about 2.5 hours, something like that. It's on sale $10 at our website, TheAHNShow.com. Digital download format. It's $5 in digital download format. I'm going to post a link here on the thread of the broadcast. We have order shipping out this week. I'm going to post the link here on the thread of the broadcast, so you can place your orders now. And the new website is very easy to navigate through. You can order right from your smartphone. Okay, I've been working on this website Thursday through Saturday. I paid Thursday. I paid WordPress because I've had the domain name TheAHNShow.com for years. I'm switching over from Ionos over to WordPress. I already had it on WordPress, so I paid WordPress Thursday $180 to upgrade to their new business pro package, so I could build the website out and turn it into an e-commerce website, all that stuff. So it's much easier for you to navigate throughout. All right. And well, I'm post a link here for the digital download also. The digital download is $5. All right. I want to go back to the January 6th hearing that took place Thursday, June 9th. We were talking about this right before the break. Jalen, I want to go back to that clip from NBC Nightly News. We're going to go back to that, and then we're going to the clip from Roland Martin Unfiltered. Let's go back to NBC Nightly News as a recap of what happened Thursday, the primetime January 6th hearing, and the hearing was seen by approximately 20 million people.
Years. Officer Carolyn Edwards, who suffered a traumatic brain injury fighting on the Capitol's West Front, describing in vivid detail the sheer scope of the day's violence.
What I saw was just a war scene. There were officers on the ground, they were bleeding, they were throwing up, they had, I saw friends with blood all over their faces. I was slipping in people's blood.
Officer Harry Dunn trained Edwards.
She did a fantastic job, and I couldn't be proud. I was just so proud of her bravery. I called her a hero.
The committee made up of 7 Democrats, but just 2 Republicans, all appointed by Speaker Pelosi. Both Republicans fierce critics of former President Trump and of those who still support him.
I say this to my Republican colleagues who are defending the indefensible. There will come a day when Donald Trump is gone, but your dishonor will remain.
House Republicans brushing off the hearing as a Democratic distraction.
Well, last night's hearing was a primetime dud. Nothing came out of it that we didn't know before. It didn't change anybody's minds. At the end of the day, this committee is trying to prosecute Donald Trump for crimes that he did not commit.
Watching last night, it felt like a preview to much, much more. I know they've lined up 3 more hearings for next week, right?
Yeah, Lester, that's right. These hearings won't be in prime time, but they will cover the pressure campaigns against Mike Pence and the Department of Justice. And on Monday, they'll focus specifically on the former president's lies about the election results. Lester?
All right, Garrett, thanks. And for more, let's bring in Kristen Welker now at the White House. Kristen, nearly 20 million people were watching last night, and we're already getting an idea of how this is playing out.
That's right, Lester. Democrats tell us tonight the hearing was a powerful start to laying out the case against former President Trump, and they're signaling they won't shy away from trying to link Trump-backed candidates in key swing states to the horror that unfolded that day. But the reality check here, Democrats also know these new devastating inflation numbers, plus record-high gas prices, the baby formula shortage, are what Americans care about most. So they're walking a fine line as well. Meanwhile, Republicans today are blasting the hearing as a partisan distraction from issues like inflation, with Democrats facing the potential for big losses. Bottom line here, with the country so sharply divided, it's hard to see the hearings will have a major impact on the overall outcome in November.
All right. Okay, so that's from NBC Nightly News. I think they're going to have, when all this stuff comes out in the hearings, all this stuff comes out, I think it's going to have an impact on the midterm elections, number one, because you're going to see some of these traitors who try to overthrow the government, who try to invalidate African Americans' votes. You're going to see them running for re-election and try to invalidate Latinos' votes and Asian Americans and white people who voted for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. All this stuff is going to come out. Is not going to be pretty. All right. Okay. Calling numbers 313-778-7600. is the call-in number if you have a question or comment. All right, now I was on Roland Martin Unfiltered. We're going to clip 2, Jalen. I was on Roland Martin Unfiltered on Friday, June 10th, and we discussed the January 6th hearing. And also on the panel was Melanie Campbell of Black Women's Roundtable, I think it is, but Melanie Campbell, she's been on Roland Martin Unfiltered numerous times. Let's go to clip number 2, Jalen.
I didn't want to be a part of it, and that's one of the reasons that went into me deciding to leave when I did. I observed, I think it was on December 1st, that how can you can't live in a world where the incumbent administration stays in power based on its view, unsupported by specific evidence, that there was fraud in the election.
I mean, Michael, by putting that out there, this is the guy who did everything to protect Donald Trump with the Mueller report, and this was important, just to methodically lay the facts out.
Exactly. And keep in mind, Attorney General William Barr also resigned about a month before Trump left office as well. Okay, and that was one of the reasons why, because he disagreed with Trump. I watched the whole thing yesterday, Roland. I watched the hour of the preview on MSNBC. I watched the whole hearing, then I watched the analysis afterwards. Yesterday was fantastic. Documentarian Nick Quested did a fantastic job. I've been reading through articles about this, and I knew that this was the type of information that was coming because I've been following the investigations they've been doing. There's been over 1,000 people they've interviewed. They reviewed over 140,000 documents. So I wasn't pressing the committee. I knew this stuff was coming. Now, this coming Monday, they're going to break down. They're going to go through and systematically dissect the big lie. That's what's coming this Monday. So this was fantastic. A lot of new evidence came out, footage we had not seen before. People around Trump who told him, no, you lost, you're lying, etc. Attorney General William Barr. We saw Ivanka Trump, and we saw that she believed William Barr. We saw, Scott Perry pursuing a pardon, but also they're inviting Scott Perry to come testify. They say, well, if you disagree with our findings, you can come testify under oath. And Chairman Benny Thompson was interviewed by Nicole Wallace today on Deadline White House. And she asked him, would you let President Trump come, former President Trump come? He said, yeah, if he comes under oath, testifies that he can. But if he thinks he's going to perjure himself, he better think again. So this is fantastic. I love it. Seriously, I love it. And this reminds me, lastly, of the July 1863 New York City draft riot during the Civil War, where working-class white men retaliated against the federal government because they were being drafted to fight in the Civil War. Many of them did not have the $300 to avoid being drafted. And they said, wait a second, you said the Civil War was about keeping the Union together. This was after the Emancipation Proclamation. They said, now you're talking about freeing the slaves. They retaliated and they attacked federal buildings. There were about 119 people killed, and they also attacked African Americans as well. This was a bloody riot, one of the worst riots in the history of this country. This is before, of course, Tulsa Massacre, 1921. This is the New York City draft riot, 1863, during the Civil War.
All right. Melody, to sit here and listen to people who say, oh my God, the hearings were boring, and they could have made it more compelling. I'm sorry, everything literally is not a damn television show or a movie. I mean, what we're talking about here is, as Congressman Thompson said, this was an attempted coup. And so I'm sorry we can't have a Michael Mann movie, or a F. Gary Gray movie. This can't be Fast and Furious 9, 10, or 11. This is real stuff. And the fact that 20 million people saw this, and you have others who are saying that, well, we pretty much knew all this sort of stuff. No, I think there were people last night who had to see the gravity of what took place, and I think with these hearings coming up, and I think every one of them should prime time. They should, if the television networks, oh, we don't want to prime time, damn your prime time shows. Put this in prime time because American people need to sit at home and listen to this so they understand the evil that exists in the Republican Party because they continue to defend this big lie.
Well, I tell you, last night my brother who votes, but he doesn't like to get that engaged on some of these things. Me and my brother sat here the entire 2 hours, and he was talking about when I came home today. It's like people are paying. People who watch paid attention. And I think next week, and I agree with you, they need to keep it on prime time, no matter what Fox News, because there's certain people who go, no matter what happens. Those aren't the people that's going to ever own it because they have a different mindset about what it's about keep white people on the top of the heat. And so Trump fits that bill. So it doesn't matter what to them what happens. But the American people have to know found out where people stood or whether or not they was democracy, that you all say so much when you flying the flag and taking people out like Café because he took a knee. So how patriotic are you really when you say you love the country? Because if you love this country, then what happened on January 6th, then you're going to show it also at the ballot box and who you decide you want to bring back to Congress in 2023.
All right, pause right there, Jalen. Pause it right there. Okay, so that's some of what happened on Roland Martin Unfiltered. When we come back from the break, we'll show you some. We'll go to another clip as well. Look at this article here from the Daily Beast. MSNBC January 6 hearing coverage beats Fox News regular lineup and ratings. So 4.1 million people. Let's see, 4.1 million people watched MSNBC. There was about 3 million people who watched CNN. CNN came third at 2.6 million. 3 million people watched The Liars, Tucker Carlson and Sean Hannity on Fox News. Okay, and we know it's about 20 million people in total who watched the hearing on Thursday. We'll continue this on the other side of the break. Listen to the African History Network show. I'm Michael M. Hotep. We'll be back in a few minutes. Okay, stand by. Back from break in 4 minutes. Stand by. We do put time into helping our schools, hospitals, and communities. I don't know where people get this nonsense from. Back from break in 4 minutes. Stand by. When you go to our new website, TheAHNShow.com, do /home. For some reason, I'm converting it over from an old website that I had, and it's going, when you go to just TheAHNShow.com, it's going to the wrong page. It's going to the original page that I had, where if I did a blog post, it would show up on that page. I have to contact customer service to see, tech support to see how to redirect it to go to the second home page that I set up. But if you just go to TheAfricanHistoryNetwork.com /home, it'll come up. Or when you go to the website, it will at the top, it shows you the menu. and just click on home on the menu, the home that's over to the right. So back for breaking 1 minute. If you go to the website and it says nothing found, it has the menu up here. Okay, it's taking you here, which was the original page. And when I did a new blog post, it'll show up there. Just click right here on home next to Michael M. Hotep's bio, and it takes you to the website.
Different topics here on the African History Network Show. We do recurring events and history and much, much more. We're going to give you an update on what's going on. This is about self-preservation. We have to extinguish the fire of white supremacy. See, let's just have consequences.
Catch it all right here on 910 AM Superstation.
Welcome back to the African History Network Show right here on 910 AM Superstation, the future of radio. Okay, so on our new website, TheAHNShow.com, TheAHNShow.com. When you go to it, just type in /home, HOME, and it takes you to the new homepage I set up. Or if you go to it and it says nothing found, if you look at the menu at the top, just click on home that's right next to Michael M. Hotep's bio. Click on home, and it takes you to the home page. You see me there in the studio at 910 AM Superstation WFDF. You scroll down, we see the Heavy is the Crown documentary, so you can order that there. It's easy to order right from your smartphone. In addition to the Juneteenth lecture that I've done, also my Black Wall Street lecture is available right now. It's $10 on DVD, $5 on digital download. This is a 2.5-hour lecture that I've done dealing with the history of Black Wall Street in Tulsa, Oklahoma, the origins of Tulsa. I deal with the Creek Indians because Tulsa was founded by Creek Indians around 1834 who get pushed off their land in the southeastern United States because of the Indian Removal Act of 1830. When they go into Tulsa, they take their African slaves with them. Because the Choctaw, Chickasaw, Creek, Cherokee, and Seminole Indians all owned African slaves. Okay, so we'll post this link right here on the thread of the broadcast as well. And then we have, if we go back, we have the my bundle pack, 15 DVD bundle pack, Michael M. Hotep Black History Month bundle pack, and it's actually 16 lectures. This is regularly $150 on sale, $100. We have these shipping out this week, and includes 16 of my lectures. Keep you busy. You get my two of my Black Panther lectures dealing with the film Black Panther. You're dealing with one, you get one, Breaking the Chains, Why We Celebrate Black History Month, which deals with the origins of African American History Month and Dr. Carter G. Woodson. You get one that I did on Malcolm X, one on Dr. King, The Distortion of the Legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., the Revolutionary, will not be televised on the television. There's also one that I did dealing with the Three-Fifths Compromise of 1787, Article 1, Section 2, Clause 3 of the U.S. Constitution, and why people misunderstand it. It did not say we were 3/5 of a human being. It's dealing with counting 3/5 of the population of slaves to determine how many seats in the House of Representatives slaveholding states would have. Also, I deal with the Electoral College and how it works and the origins of it. The 13 forms of wealth, keys to economic, to entrepreneurship and economic empowerment. So that deals with entrepreneurship, and I tie African American history into it as well, because I taught entrepreneurship for 7 years. The racist history of the white national anthem and the Pledge of Allegiance. This deals with the origins of the national anthem, written by Francis Scott Key in 1814 during the War of 1812, and the Pledge of Allegiance, written in 1892 by Francis Bellamy, who was a minister and a socialist. So, and I tie all that into Colin Kaepernick's protest. You get a double lecture that I deal with David M. Hotep, who wrote the book, The First Americans Were Africans, Documented Evidence. This 4-hour presentation, Redistributing the Pain, how African Americans fought back with the boycotts. It deals with documented examples of us using different types of economic withdrawal strategies to fight against white supremacy and racism. The Light of Ancient Egypt Awakens the African Mind, the Economic Great African Women in History, the Mothers of Civilization, which is actually 2 DVD presentations, about 4 hours. A Black Panther analysis. This is a presentation I did for children. I was speaking to about 60 I think it's 5th graders and their teachers, okay, and dealing with how the film Black Panther relates to African history and culture and how they can use different themes from the film to teach this history to our children, okay. Also, Ancient Kemet, the Winter Solstice, and the History of Christmas. So it's actually 16 lectures that you get in that bundle pack, okay, and that's on sale $100. I said our new website, African History, TheAHNShow.com, TheAHNShow.com. We're going to post a link right here for we'll post a link right here for that bundle pack. All right, I want to go back to our story here dealing with the January 6th insurrection. And Jalen, I want to go to clip number 4, Benny Thompson, Representative Benny Thompson. We're going to clip number 4 here in just a minute. Benny Thompson's from Mississippi. Okay, I want you to hear what he had to say. Now, during the segment, when I was on Roland Martin Unfiltered, you heard me talk about the 1863 New York City draft riot. All right. And Jalen, I like that Imhotep guy. We got to get him on the show next Sunday, man. I'm just saying. That Imhotep guy dropped this knowledge about the 1863 New York City draft riot that not a lot of people know about. So this is during the Civil War, okay, after the Emancipation Proclamation, and white men retaliated against the federal government. And this caused a number of days of rampage and riots, and they were attacking federal buildings. The New York City draft riots occurred in July of 1863 when the anger of working class New Yorkers over a new federal draft law during the Civil War sparked 5 days of some of the bloodiest and most destructive rioting in U.S. history. Hundreds of people were killed. Many more seriously injured, and African Americans were often the target of the rioters' violence. Now, how many people have never heard, besides me talking about this, because I talked about it before, how many people have never heard of the New York City draft riot of 1863? Now, I teach about this in our Sunday online history class, from the Civil War to the Civil Rights Movement and Black Power, 1865 to 1968. So be sure to register for that at our new website, TheAfricanHistoryNetwork.com, TheAfricanHistoryNetwork.com /home, or just click on home at the top of the page. Now, as the business capital of the nation, New York City had not welcomed the onset of the Civil War, as it meant losing the South as a trading partner. It's all about the money, as it meant losing the South as a trading partner. Cotton was an extremely valuable product for New York's merchants. Before the Civil War, cotton represented 40% of all the goods shipped out of the city's port. And long after the slave trade was made illegal in 1808, we talk about this in my class as well. March 2nd, 1807, U.S. Congress abolishes the international transatlantic slave trade, which means bringing Africans into the country to sell them as slaves. You could still own slaves in the country. You could still sell them in the country, but you cannot bring Africans into the country. The U.S. entered into international treaties with other European nations about 1808. This law goes into effect January 1st, 1808, is rooted in Article 1, Section 9, Clause 1 of the U.S. Constitution, which stated that the earliest the transatlantic slave trade could be abolished was January 1st, 1808. And once again, this helps to lay a legal foundation rooted in the U.S. Constitution for reparations, because all of the Africans who were brought to this country from January 1st, 1808 through about July of 1860, when the Clotilda comes into Alabama, all that was illegal based upon federal law. All that was a violation of federal law, and their capture was also a violation of international treaties as well. And this played a role in the 1841 U.S. Supreme Court case, the U.S. versus the Amistad. This is why those Africans were set free, Josephson Q and the others. This is why they were set free, because it was illegal for that ship to come into the U.S. in the first place. Okay, so and long after the slave trade was made illegal in 1808, the city of New York's illicit slave market thrived. The city of New York's slave market thrived. Now, when the war broke out in 1861, the Civil War, there was even talk of New York seceding from the Union itself. So entwined were the city's business interests with the Confederate States. Now, as the war progressed, New York's anti-war politicians and newspapers kept warning its working class white citizens, many of them Irish or German immigrants, that emancipation, freeing the slaves, would mean their replacement in the labor force by thousands of freed enslaved people from the South. So you got white newspapers like the Fox News of their time. You had anti-war politicians who were against the Civil War. You had these white-owned newspapers preying on the poor Irish and German immigrants, scaring them like Fox News scares ignorant people today, and saying if the slaves are freed, they're going to come take your jobs. But when you really do a systems analysis, you'll see that African Americans and poor whites are being manipulated by the same 1% or 10%, just as it was back in the 1860s. It's the same thing today. And they manipulate also immigrants coming to this country, migrants coming to this country. And if you want to look at those coming from Central America, the violence and conditions that many of them are fleeing from Guatemala and Honduras and things like this, and even coming from Mexico, which is looked as part of North America, the conditions that they're fleeing from, the U.S. has helped to shape those conditions because of U.S. policies to Central American countries for the last 50 years to 100 years. Okay, so we have to do a systems analysis as opposed to suffering from a paralysis of analysis. We'll continue this on the other side of the break. I'm going to share what Representative Benny Thompson had to say, chair of the January 6th committee. He's from Bolton, Mississippi, and he mentions Vicksburg, Mississippi. We know there was a Vicksburg massacre in Mississippi in 1874. And I'm going to share another segment from Roland Martin Unfiltered. I'm Michael M. Hotep. We'll be back in a few minutes. Stand by. Stand by. Back from break in 4 minutes. Okay, back from break in 4 minutes. Stand by. Okay, who we have here? We have Valiant, Robert. Thanks for the donation, Robert. Robert Harris. We got Valiant, Thor, Fly Girl. Just a few of the people watching us. Share it, give us a thumbs up. Give us a heart, give us a like, share this broadcast on your social media platforms, invite your friends to tune in also. Back from break in 3 minutes. Stand by. All right, stand by. Back from break in 2 minutes. Okay, so we have a bundle pack for the online classes. You can register for both of them for $100 because they're regularly $130 each. I'm going to go in and change the font color also. Okay, so you can register for both classes for $100. Click right there to register. If you've taken any of my online classes in the past, email me at AHNshow@AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AHNshow@AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. You'll get a 50% discount if you've taken any of my online classes in the past.
Nine 10, the Superstation, Detroit's only African-American talk radio.
Welcome back to the African History Network show right here on 910 AM, the Superstation, the Future Radio. All right. If you missed my online class today, from the Civil War to the Civil Rights Movement and Black Power, 1865 to 1968, it's not a problem. As soon as you register for the class, you can watch today's class. Okay, so we do the sessions live. All the sessions are archived and recorded. And today we dealt with the Compromise of 1850, which was a result of the Mexican-American War of 1846 and 1848, and the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo of 1848. The U.S. is going to get the territory that makes up California, Arizona, New Mexico, Colorado, Utah, and Nevada from Mexico, from that treaty, which ends the Mexican-American War. We were looking at what leads up to the Civil War taking place. So the Compromise of 1850 was one of them. Also, the Kansas-Nebraska Act of 1854 was another one of them as well. The Compromise of 1850 consisted of 5 bills. The 5th bill was the Fugitive Slave Act of 1850, which intensified the abolitionist movement and caused more runaway slaves to go into Canada. Okay, we also talked about Harriet Beecher Stowe's book, Uncle Tom's Cabin, which came out in 1852. And this is going to intensify the abolitionist movement as well. We're going to look at these things that lead up to the Civil War taking place, also like the Missouri Compromise of 1820. We talked about that today in the class also. And that was designed to organize the land that the U.S. got from the Louisiana Purchase of 1803. Okay, so we have the information at our new website, TheAHNShow.com. The class is on sale, $60, regularly $130. We do the sessions live. All the sessions are archived and recorded. You can go back and watch it anytime. I'm going to post a link here. Also, you can register for this as well. It's a 10-week online class that I teach. And you don't have to be present in class. You can watch from around the world, and even after the class is over with, you still have access. You can still watch the full course. So a year from now, 2 years from now, you can go back and watch the full class. All right. I want to go back to this article here. Then we're going to go to, I want you to hear from Representative Benny Thompson. I want to go to this article here from history.com, which deals with the New York City draft riot. The New York draft riots. This is of July 1863. We were talking about this right before the break, and this is what I mentioned when I was on Roland Martin Unfiltered. As the Civil War progressed, New York's anti-war politicians, let me see, this ad's playing. Okay, New York's anti-war politicians and newspapers kept warning its working class white citizens, many of them Irish or German immigrants, that emancipation would mean their replacement in the labor force by thousands of freed and enslaved people from the South. They said they're coming to take your jobs. They say, no, Irish and Germans, they said, no, you don't want these slaves to be free. They're going to come take your jobs. So you should want the South to win. Okay, you should want to keep them enslaved. It sounds like the same rhetoric that people like Trump talk about when they talk about immigrants coming here, taking jobs, even though you have millions of unfilled jobs. Okay, even though there are millions of unfilled jobs right now in the economy. This is the same. When you go and look at this history, this is the same rhetoric. They keep running the same play over and over again because it works. They prey on people who are ignorant, who don't understand history, don't understand the economy. This is the same game they ran in 1863, the same game they're running in 2022, same game Trump ran in 2016. They're coming to take your jobs. They're rapists, they're murderers, things like this. And immigrants, including undocumented immigrants, have a lower rate of crimes than people who were born here in the U.S. Now, in September 1862, President Abraham Lincoln announced the Emancipation Proclamation, which was an executive order which would take effect early the following year. And this confirmed workers' worst fears, white workers. This confirmed white workers' worst fears. Now, the Emancipation Proclamation is not what freed the slaves. We know it's the 13th Amendment when it was ratified by Georgia December 6, 1865, and that amends the U.S. Constitution. Okay. Now, at the time, Lincoln's decision for emancipation sparked protests among workers in the city. So he says, okay, this is going to, we're going now the Civil War in the beginning was fought to bring the South back into the Union, not to free the slaves. Okay. The Emancipation Proclamation was a military strategy. There's a military strategy which stated that the territories in rebellion, if they did not come back into the Union by January 1st, 1863, their slaves would be free. Okay. So the initial Emancipation Proclamation was issued September 22nd. It was an ultimatum. It was a threat to bring the South back into the Union. Okay. And it stated if they did not come back into the Union by January 1st, 1863, their slaves would be free. Now, when you go read it, you can go to loc.gov, the Library of Congress website, or archives.gov, U.S. National Archives, and you can read the Emancipation Proclamation. It gives all these exceptions because the border states like Maryland, Missouri, Kentucky, and Delaware, they were allowed to keep their slaves. And then territories that were former Confederate territories that came back under control of the Union, they were allowed to keep their slaves as well. This is why we have to read. This is why they didn't want slaves to read, many of them. You could read in Virginia if you were a slave up till 1831 when the Nat Turner Rebellion took place, because Nat Turner was literate and he could read the Bible, and he was using the Bible as a tool to teach our people that we should be free. So after the Nat Turner Rebellion, the state legislature in Virginia changed that law and said, no, we can't have these Negroes reading. Another thing that we did when we learned to read and write, many of us wrote our own freedom papers and ran away because a lot of the patrollers, the paddy rollers, a lot of the slave patrollers were illiterate and they couldn't read either. So you can give them any piece of paper and say these are your freedom papers or a travel pass. Okay, so as at the time, Lincoln's decision for emancipation sparked protests among workers in the city, as well as soldiers and officers in New York regiments who had signed up to preserve the Union, not to abolish slavery, who had signed up to preserve the Union, not to abolish slavery, because that's what you said this was about. This is about preserving the Union, bringing the South back into the Union. Okay, so then they're going to institute a draft and the conscription law. They institute a draft. This 1863. July 1863, facing a dire shortage of manpower in early 1863, Lincoln's government passed a strict new conscription law, which made all male citizens between 20 and 35 years old, and all unmarried men between 35 and 45 subject to military duty. Now, here's the hook where the elite prey on the poor masses. Though all eligible men were entered into a lottery, they could buy their way out of harm's way by hiring a substitute or paying $300 to the government, which is roughly $5,800 today. So wealthy white men could buy their way out of being drafted and going to fight in the Union Army against the South. Poor white men couldn't do this. This is one of the reasons why they retaliated with the riot. At the time, the sum was the yearly salary for the average American worker, $300, making avoiding the draft impossible for all but the wealthiest of men, the ruling 1% or 10%. Compounding the issue, African Americans were exempt from the draft as they were not considered citizens. Okay, so you got poor white men saying you're going to draft me to go fight in this war, and you're going to free the slaves. They're going to take my job, and I can't buy my way out of this. All hell to the no. Riots over the draft occurred in other cities, including Detroit, Michigan, and Boston, Boston, Massachusetts, but nowhere was as bad as in the city of New York. Anti-war newspapers published attacks on the new draft law, fueling the mounting anger of white workers leading up to the city's first draft lottery on July 11th, 1863. Now, the New York draft riots began. For the first 24 hours after the lottery, the city remained suspiciously quiet, but rioting began early on the morning of Monday, July 13th. Thousands of white workers, mainly Irish and Irish Americans, started attacking military and government buildings. You mean like the January 6th insurrection when those domestic terrorists attacked the U.S. Capitol building? Isn't that a government building? Here, they attacked the Irish and Irish Americans, mainly white workers, started attacking military and government buildings and became violent only toward people who tried to stop them, including the insufficient numbers of policemen and soldiers that the city's leaders initially mustered to oppose them. By that afternoon, however, they had moved on to target African-American citizens, homes, and businesses. In one notorious example, a mob of several thousand people, some armed with clubs and bats, stormed the colored orphan asylum on Fifth Avenue near 42nd Street, a 4-story building housing more than 200 children. They took bedding, they took food, they took clothing and other goods and set the orphanage on fire, but stopped short of assaulting the children, who were forced to go to one of the city's almshouses, house for the poor. So this riot caused violence and bloodshed. They then start attacking African Americans. In addition to African Americans themselves, rioters turned their rage against white abolitionists and women who were married to black men. White abolitionists, and they're talking about white women married to black men. So read the rest of this here. You're going to end up with at least 119 people killed. In all, the published death toll of the New York City draft riot of July 1863 was 119 people, though estimates of the actual number of people killed reached as high as 1,200. We'll continue this on the other side of the break. I want you to hear from Representative Benny Thompson. Now, this type of history, this is what I teach in my online history classes. Visit our website, TheAHNShow.com, our new website, TheAHNShow.com. You can register for those. You listen to the African History Network show. I'm Michael M. Hotep. We'll be back in a few minutes. Stand by. Back from break in 4 minutes. All right, stand by. Okay, how y'all doing? How y'all like this type of information? Okay, you can support the African History Network, $ the AHN Show through Cash App. And through PayPal, paypal.me/the AHN Show. If you have not registered for my online classes, I just posted a link here. This is for our class from the Civil War to the Civil Rights Movement and Black Power, 1865 to 1968. That class is on sale $60, regularly $130. We have a bundle pack where you can register for both classes for $100. That's a huge value. Okay, so we have a bundle pack where you get the Civil War class as well as Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Ma'afa, Understanding the Transatlantic Slave Trade. You get both for $100. Okay, so I'm going to post the link here for the bundle pack. This course bundle. Also with the bundle pack, they're free. There's some additional lectures that you get from me as well. in digital format. Stand by. Back from break in 1 minute or 2 minutes. I got to get ready for this next segment. We're going to Benny Thompson. Back from break in 1 minute. Okay, give us a thumbs up. Give us a like. Post here on the thread of the broadcast. Let me know if you're watching. Just post I'm watching or hi or something like that if you're watching us. Welcome back to the African History Network show. All right here on 910 a.m. the Superstation WFDF. Now keep in mind we're on only Sundays now, 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is my original time slot. Starting in October 2020, I was on Monday through Friday, 11 p.m. to midnight. But a couple weeks ago, I stopped that. So we're only on Sundays, 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Follow me on my social media platforms, The African History Network, The African History Network on Facebook, Michael M. Hotep on YouTube. It's Michael M. Hotep on Instagram. Also, if you want me to do a presentation for your group of organizations, email me at AHNshow@AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AHNshow@AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. Okay. I'm speaking at a couple of locations in the weekend of Saturday, the weekend of June 18th and 19th for Juneteenth. I'm speaking out in Mount Clemens. We're going to post this on our new website, TheAHNHistoryNetwork.com, TheAHNHistoryNetwork.com. I'll post the information there. You can also email me, AHNshow@AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, if you want me to do a presentation for your group or organization. And you can give me a call at 313-462-0003. That's the business line for the African History Network, 313-462-0003 also. All right. And I got to find that. Okay. I want to go to this clip here. This is Representative Benny Thompson of Congressional Black Caucus. This was his opening statement at the January 6th committee hearing. Okay, let's go to this clip, Jalen.
Thanks to everyone watching tonight for sharing part of your evening to learn the facts and causes of the events leading up to and including the violent attack on January 6, 2021. Our democracy, electoral system, and country. I'm Benny Thompson, chairman of the January 6, 2021 committee. I was born, raised, and still live in Bolton, Mississippi, a town with a population of 521, which is midway between Jackson and Vicksburg, Mississippi, and the Mississippi River. I'm from a part of the country where people justify the actions of slavery, the Ku Klux Klan, and lynching. I'm reminded of that dark history as I hear voices today try and justify the actions of the insurrectionists on January 6, 2021. Over the next few weeks, hopefully you will get to know the other members, my colleagues up here, and me. We represent a diversity of communities from all over the United States, rural areas and cities, East Coast, West Coast, and the Heartland. All of us have one thing in common. We swore the same oath. That same oath that all members of Congress take upon taking office and afterwards every 2 years if they are reelected. We swore an oath to defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign, and domestic.
Mm-hmm.
The words of the current oath taken by all of us that nearly every United States government employee takes have their roots in the Civil War. Throughout our history, the United States has fought against foreign enemies to preserve our democracy, electoral system, and country. When the United States Capitol was stormed and burned in 1814, foreign enemies were responsible. Afterward, in 1862, when American citizens had taken up arms against this country, Congress adopted a new oath to help make sure no person who had supported the rebellion could hold a position of public trust. Therefore, congresspersons and United States federal government employees were required for the first time to swear an oath to defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. That oath was put to test on January 6, 2021. The police officers who held the line that day honored their oath. Many came out of that day blooded and broken. They still bear those wounds, visible and invisible. They did their duty. They repelled the mob and ended the occupation of the Capitol. They defended the Constitution against domestic enemies so that Congress could return, uphold our own oath, and count your votes to ensure the transfer of power, just as we've done for hundreds of years. But unlike in 1814, it was domestic enemies of the Constitution who stormed the Capitol and occupied the Capitol, who sought to thwart the will of the people to stop the transfer of power. And so they did, so at the encouragement of the President of the United States, the President of the United States trying to stop the transfer of power, a precedent that had stood for 220 years, even as our democracy had faced its most difficult test. Thinking back again to the Civil War in the summer of 1864, the President of the United States believed we would be doomed to his bid for re-election. He believed his opponent, General George McClellan, would wave the white flag when it came to preserving the Union. But even with that grim fate hanging in the balance, President Lincoln was ready to accept the will of the voters, come what may. He made a quiet pledge.
All right. Pause it right there, Jalen. Pause it right there. Okay. All right. Those watching on Facebook and YouTube, look, we're running out of time here. Keep watching. Those listening on 910 AM WFDF, we're running out of time. Those watching on Facebook and YouTube, keep watching. We're going to keep going for a few more minutes, and I'm going to play another segment of Roland Martin Unfiltered. Now, Representative Benny Thompson did a fantastic job. The reason why he's chairman of the committee, one, because of seniority, two, because people voted. African Americans, Latinos, Asian Americans voted and put Democrats in control of the House of Representatives. He talked about the oath that they take. Go to Senate.gov, Senate.gov, official website of the U.S. Senate, and search for the oath we take, the oath we take. They talked about the oath from 1789, but then after the Civil War, the oath was altered, okay? It was enhanced. During the Civil War, Congress instituted the test oath. The test oath created in part to prevent ex-Confederates from taking federal positions. The Senate amended the oath 4 times between 1864 and 1884, when, as part of a general revision of its rules, it repealed the test oath. Since then, the solemn oath prescribed by law has been, I do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. Okay, so read the rest of that as well. And that was as a result of the U.S. Civil War. That's what Representative Benny Thompson was talking about. All right. Visit our new website, theAfricanHistoryNetwork.com/home. We have to get out of here. We'll see you Wednesday at Nandi's Knowledge Cafe. Remember, right now is correct wrong behavior. It's not over till we win. Wakanda forever. And we'll talk to you next time. Peace. All right. Stand by. Stand by. I'm going to go to this next clip here. This is from Roland Martin Unfiltered, and we were talking about the this is continuing the discussion of the January 6th committee hearing. I want to go to this clip here. Let's go to this one.
Hearing is doing is showing you exactly who's on the right side of history. Like, you are seeing who in the Trump administration and others are going to be considered domestic terrorists and who are actually going to be considered patriots. Now, the American people can do with that what they will. Hopefully they open their eyes to the crap that we've been going through, but at least now it's on the record. At least now it will be nothing but willful ignorance from here on out. You cannot say that you didn't know, because it's been in your face now this entire time.
And that's it, Michael. I mean, there are no more excuses. And this is where we get to say, who you with? Who you with? Because if you continue, when the Jim Jordans of the world and Kevin McCarthy keep saying, oh, this committee, they're illegal. See, that's all hype. No. You now have to explain away, Kevin McCarthy, the video of your staff scurrying out of the office as they were coming. So you call the committee illegal, yet your staff was scared for their lives on that same day. In fact, if I'm with his staff, I could not work for that man after what he has been doing, trying to discredit this hearing. I mean, exactly. This committee.
Well, Kevin McCarthy was calling the White House, trying to get Trump to call off his goons, trying to get Trump to call off his domestic terrorists. This is how spineless these Republicans are. These are traitors. This is how spineless these people are. And this is it. This is an example of how elections have consequences, because the reason why Benny Thompson is chairman of that committee is because people went out and voted, especially African Americans, and Democrats have control of the House. Okay. Now, also, when you talk about these traitors Republicans, we have to keep in mind, when we look at how they vote, they consistently vote against our own interests. And just a couple of weeks ago, all the Republicans, except for one, Adam Kinzinger, all of them voted against the Domestic Terrorism Prevention Act in the House of Representatives. I wonder why. Because if the Domestic Terrorism Prevention Act passes and 47 Republicans in the Senate voted against it as well, that was going to specifically target domestic terrorists, neo-Nazis, and white supremacists, and they know their asses would be busted. This is why every last one of those traitors, keep in mind, 147 of those traitors certified the 2020 presidential elections, 139 in the House, and I think it was 8 in the Senate. All those traitors have to be dealt with. All of them have to be voted out of office, and then hopefully they'll be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. And, treason is defined by Article 3, Section 3 of the U.S. Constitution, and we know what the penalty for treason is also. All right. So that's another segment from Roland Martin Unfiltered. You can watch that show in its entirety. Roland S. Martin on Facebook and YouTube. You can download the Black Star Media app and watch it there as well. And the shows are archived also. That was from Friday, June 10th, 2022. All right. I want to go to, let's see here. I want to go to, all right, just a second. I mentioned when I was on Roland's show, I mentioned the Domestic Terrorism Prevention Act. We've talked about it here on this show. We know that only one Republican voted for the bill. The bill came back up for a vote in the House, and it was modified to address concerns of progressives like Representative Cori Bush from Missouri, etc., it came back up for a vote in the House as a result of the Buffalo, New York mass shooting where 10 African Americans were killed. Washington Post reported May 18th and 19th, House passes bill targeting domestic terrorism in wake of Buffalo mass shooting. Now, the vote was 222 to 203. 203 Republicans voted against the bill. Only Representative Adam Kinzinger of Illinois, who's not running for re-election, voted for the bill. And when we look at this, now we know in the Senate, it was defeated in the Senate by a vote of 47 to 47. So they couldn't even get 50 votes. 47 Republicans voted against the bill. But the bill would create departments in the Schneider's legislation would establish domestic terrorism offices within the Justice and Homeland Security departments, Justice Department of Homeland Security, as well as the FBI. It also called for leaders of the FBI, DOJ, and Department of Homeland Security to submit a joint report twice a year with a particular focus on the threat posed by white supremacists and neo-Nazis, including the infiltration of federal, state, and local law enforcement agencies and the uniformed services by members of those groups. So these 203 Republicans voted against this bill because they don't want to prevent domestic terrorism, especially when they're involved in planning it. They voted against this bill because they don't want to prevent domestic terrorism, especially when they are involved in planning it, or they're domestic terrorist sympathizers. So read this here from the Washington Post. House passes bill targeting domestic terrorism in wake of Buffalo mass shooting. So if Republicans want to prevent domestic terrorism, where's your bill? If Republicans, these 203 that voted against this, you want to prevent domestic terrorism, you want to crack down on that, where's your bill? All right. Okay, I want to go to this next story here, which I'm not going to have time to really get to this one. We talked about it earlier in the show, so read this article here. California's Reparations Task Force takes on the historic theft of Black art and culture. Okay. I talked about this early in the show, and we're not going to have as much time to spend on this as I wanted to. But the January 6th January 6th committee hearing is extremely important. So if we look at this briefly, and this is a continuation of this topic from our Sunday, June 5th show. There's a chapter in the nearly 600-page report that the California Reparations Task Force released on Wednesday, June 1st, that deals with the long-standing inequities surrounding the history of arts and entertainment in the U.S. and the theft of royalties, property rights, things like this. Throughout American history, the federal government historically deprived African-American artists and innovators of intellectual property rights, copyright protections, and patent protections, resulting in intellectual and cultural theft and exploitation, states the report, which according to Task Force Chair Camila Moore, is the most extensive government-issued report on the African-American community since the Kerner Commission in 1968. Now, this also contributes to the racial wealth gap as well. The report includes a series of preliminary recommendations for California, encouraging the state to create an office of freedmen, create an office of freedmen cultural affairs to compensate individuals who have been deprived of rightful profits for their creative work, and to prevent the further discrimination in arts and entertainment industries through a series of policies and legislation. Now, the report echoes decades old arguments that legal scholars, activists, and artists themselves have made regarding long-standing structural problems of equal compensation in the music industry. Quote, federal and state governments allowed white Americans to steal Black American art and culture with impunity. Federal and state governments allowed white Americans to steal Black American art and culture with impunity, the report states, depriving Black creators of valuable copyright and patent protections. Now, it goes on to say, Camila Moore tells Rolling Stone, quote, what I like about this report, and particularly the chapter about African-American creative, cultural, and intellectual life, is that not only does it catalog the harms against the African-American community from the transatlantic slave trade to the present, but it also talks about the vast contributions of the African-American community in spite or despite those ongoing harms, oppression, and genocidal tactics. Quote, reparations is about honoring those contributions and making up for the harms. So reparations, end quote. So reparations is dealing with repairing the damage of something that was done. Repairing the damage of something that was done, making you whole again. Okay. One of the many dozens of scholars whose work is cited in the report is law professor Kevin Green, who provided testimony to the task force last year in 2021. Kevin Green said, one thing that people object to with reparations is the idea that my ancestors were slaveholders. I had nothing to do with this. Okay, this is the argument you hear. My ancestors may have owned slaves. That has nothing to do with me. Or my ancestors came here from Italy or Germany. They didn't own slaves. Okay. Now, Kevin Green told Rolling Stone, quote, in the music space, that is a harder argument to make because it's an ongoing harm rather than an ancient harm. It's an ongoing harm rather than an ancient harm because copyright terms are so long. A lot of these works that have never been properly credited to their originators are still valuable. They're still generating income. So then they talk about Arthur Crudup, C-R-U-D-U-P. Arthur Crudup, the report points to artists like Arthur Crudup, the Black Mississippi blues artist, who tried largely unsuccessfully to seek royalties for widely covered compositions like That's All Right, Mama in the rock era, as they cite examples like Arthur Crudup as this demonstrative of this dynamic, okay, that the harm is not ancient, the harm is ongoing. While Elvis Presley cited Arthur Crudup as a key influence on his work and repeatedly expressed his respect for the older musician, the report notes that Arthur Crudup, quote, was paid so little for his recordings that he had to work as a laborer selling sweet potatoes. Arthur Crudup was paid, who was a big influence on Elvis Presley, was paid so little for his recordings that he had to work as a laborer selling sweet potatoes. the original, quote, the original song creators whose work Elvis Presley appropriated were not even paid for the use of their music. Okay, so read the rest of this article here from RollingStone.com. California's Reparations Task Force takes on the historic theft of Black art and culture. So this is an important topic during June, which is Black Music Month. And a lot of these people we celebrate got ripped off by white people who own these companies. Okay. All right. Now, lastly, we talked about Patrick Lyoya here on the show. And we know that the officer who shot him in the back of the head, that officer has been indicted on second-degree murder charges. I want to go to this clip here from NBC News Now here in just a second. And also there was a good article from the Detroit Free Press on this as well. And also one from NBCnews.com also. If we look at this here from the Detroit Free Press, Christopher Schurr, S-H-U-R-R. Christopher Schurr charged with second-degree murder and shooting of Patrick Lyoya. All right, from NBC News dealing with this story. Where is it here? Okay, hold on.
Time out of Michigan, prosecutors are charging a Grand Rapids police officer. Following more breaking news, this time out of Michigan, prosecutors are charging a Grand Rapids police officer with murder in the shooting death of 26-year-old Patrick Lyoya during a traffic stop back in April. We want to get right to NBC News correspondent Kathy Park in Grand Rapids for us today. Kathy, walk us through what we just learned about this charge.
Yeah. Hey there, Aaron. So we just got the charging decision from the Kent County prosecutor moments ago, and he said that he is charging the officer in this deadly shooting with one count of second-degree murder. Officer Schurr has turned himself in, and his arraignment will be sometime tomorrow. Aaron, we should note that this incident took place in early April, so there has certainly been mounting pressure from the prosecutor to come out with this decision today. And even up until 3 o'clock when this press conference happened, we didn't really have any sort of indication of how the prosecutor would decide. He also noted that he sent a letter to Lyoya's family in Swahili. It looks like they are still processing the information right now. The prosecutor also extended his condolences as well. But this is something that has been top of mind in this community for quite some time, ever since the incident played out on April 4th. Several angles of the incident were released after mounting pressure from community leaders and also activists in the area as well. There were protests. They wanted accountability for the officer, Officer Schurr, who was placed on administrative leave, but also stripped of his law enforcement powers. But as of now, he has turned himself in and will be monitoring his arraignment sometime tomorrow, Aaron.
You know, Kathy, you mentioned it there. The police video shows the officer and Lyoya struggling with one another on the ground there before the gun went off. Is there any more clarity about what happened as it relates to that video?
So that is something that is being sealed now. Michigan State Police launched the investigation. They handed all that information over to the Kent County prosecutor. Christopher Becker, who is overseeing this case, said he had about 8 days to review that information, and we kind of pressed him on how he came to this conclusion, and he said right now, because it's still something that is still very sensitive, he didn't elaborate so much, but based on what we saw, based on all the footage that was released amid mounting pressure from members of the community, we did see at one point when Lyoya is reaching for the taser, and and then another struggle ensued, and then of course that fatal shot to the head. But obviously a very difficult day for the family as well, still grieving the loss of their son, Aaron.
Kathy Park for us in Grand Rapids today. Kathy, thank you.
All right, so that's from NBC News. Okay, and let me close this out here. Okay, so that's from NBC News, and that is, let me get the date on that. That is from June 9th. That's from Thursday, June 9th, 2022. Check out this article here from NBCnews.com. Michigan officer charged with murder and fatal shooting of Patrick Lyoya. Prosecutor announces. Officer Christopher Schur, who fatally shot Lyoya in Grand Rapids during a traffic stop in April, will be charged with 1 count of second-degree murder. So check out this article here. All right. Okay, look, that's going to do it for us. If you like this type of information, you can support the African History Network, $ the AHN Show through Cash App, $ the AHN Show through Cash App. Also through PayPal, paypal.me/the AHN Show. This helps us keep doing the research and stay on the air, keep broadcasting, pay some of the bills, etc. Be sure to register for the online history classes that I teach on Saturdays and Sundays. We have the information at our new website, TheAfricanHistoryNetwork.com, TheAfricanHistoryNetwork.com. On Saturdays, it is Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Ma'afa, Understanding the Transatlantic Slave Trade, what they didn't teach you in school. And on Sundays, it's From the Civil War to the Civil Rights Movement and Black Power, 1865 to 1968. And okay, so we got this right here. So I have the information here, as well as you can order some of my DVD lectures also. We have some lectures in digital download format as well. And this is easier to navigate. It shows up on your smartphone, much easier also. And you can order right from your smartphone as well. So I've been working on this past 3 days. And I'm going to pull this up here so you can see what this looks like. Okay, so we have the lectures here and the online classes also. Let me pull this up here. Okay, TheAfricanHistoryNetwork.com. So if it, looking at this on the smartphone, you see, and it says nothing found. If you go to it, just click on menu. I'm working on fixing that glitch, but just click on menu, and then it drops down the menu. Okay, and it says home, and let me see, got a glare here. But it drops down the menu, and it says home, blog, etc. I'll zoom in on it so you can see it better. See, it says home, blog, etc. Okay, so you just look at the menu, and if you scroll down right where it says Michael Imhotep's bio, just click on home, and then it takes you to the site. Okay, so you can look at this right on your smartphone. Getting the glare here. And but you can look at it right here on your smartphone. You can order right from your smartphone as well. So if you look at when it says lectures from Michael Imhotep, like for instance the Juneteenth lecture I have here, and then you click right below it on the description below it in the link. It takes you right here. Okay. Takes you right here, and then you see the options. You can pay through PayPal. And if you click PayPal, even if you don't have a PayPal account, you can, if you click PayPal, then it takes you here and you can pay by debit card, credit card. It gives you the option. It says PayPal, and it gives you the option pay with debit card, credit card. You click right there and allows you to pay by debit card or credit card.